The pounding at my door at 1 a.m. wasn't just unexpected, it was terrifying. When I opened it, there was my daughter Emma, her face bruised, mascara streaking down her cheeks, clutching her overnight bag. "Mom, he hit me," she whispered, collapsing into my arms. I hadn't seen her in months, not since that disaster of a Thanksgiving dinner where I'd confronted her husband James about the text messages I'd accidentally seen on his phone. Emma had chosen him over me then, called me a meddling old woman who couldn't stand to see her happy. But here she was now, broken on my doorstep because that man had finally shown his true colors. As I helped her inside, all I could think was that I'd been right all along, but being right had never felt so hollow. What happened next would change everything, not just for Emma and James, but for our entire family and the secret I'd been keeping for 20 years. I raised Emma alone in our small Connecticut town after her father walked out when she was just 3. Being a single mother in the 90s wasn't easy, especially since my parents made it clear they thought I'd failed at the most basic female responsibility, keeping a husband. My mother, Ruth, never missed an opportunity to remind me how I'd disappointed her, whether it was at Sunday dinners or the annual 4th of July barbecue where our extended family gathered on her sprawling property. "Well, Caroline," she'd say, passing the potato salad at these gatherings, "Emma certainly needs a father figure. Perhaps if you'd been more accommodating to Robert's needs." She'd left that hang in the air, making sure my cousins and their intact families could hear. I'd smile tightly and change the subject, even as I felt the heat of humiliation crawl up my neck. When Emma was 13, Ruth organized her bat mitzvah, even though we weren't particularly observant, inviting everyone from our synagogue. During the reception, she stood up and gave a speech about stepping in when parents fall short. She presented Emma with my grandmother's diamond necklace, an heirloom that should have come to me. "Someone needs to make sure traditions continue," she announced, fastening it around Emma's neck while looking pointedly at me. Despite these moments, I built a good life for us. I worked my way up from administrative assistant to marketing director at a pharmaceutical company, put myself through night school, and bought our modest colonial with the blue shutters Emma had fallen in love with. I made sure every Christmas was magical, every school project got the attention it deserved, and I never missed a soccer game or dance recital. When Emma met James during her sophomore year at Wesleyan, I was thrilled she'd found someone who seemed to adore her. He came from good stock, as my mother would say. His father was a surgeon in Boston, his mother on the board of several charities. Ruth was delighted, finally something about our branch of the family she could brag about. The wedding was Ruth's grand gesture. She insisted on paying for everything, transforming it from Emma's vision of a simple ceremony in the Berkshires to an extravagant affair at the Lyman estate. 300 guests, many I barely knew, a 12-piece orchestra, 5 courses. "The Fisher family finally having a day we can be proud of," she announced during her toast. What no one knew, the secret I'd kept for 20 years, was that Emma's father hadn't simply abandoned us. The night he left, he'd beaten me so severely I'd spent 3 days in the hospital. He'd threatened to take Emma if I ever reported him. My parents, especially Ruth, had blamed me, said I must have provoked him, that I needed to give the marriage another chance for Emma's sake. I'd chosen instead to tell Emma he'd left us, to protect her from both the truth and my family's toxic attitudes. And as I watched James charm everyone at that wedding, I saw flashes of Robert, the same possessive hand on Emma's waist, the same charming public face, the same cold glint in his eyes when no one was watching. But when I tried to warn Emma, she accused me of trying to ruin her happiness because I was jealous of what she had. So I stayed silent, watching from the sidelines as history threatened to repeat itself. Last Thanksgiving was supposed to be a fresh start, Emma and James had been married for 3 years, and though we'd grown increasingly distant, I was determined to rebuild our relationship. I spent days preparing, brining the turkey, making Emma's favorite cornbread stuffing with cranberries and pecans, baking 3 different pies because I couldn't remember which was James's favorite. When they arrived, Emma seemed tense, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. James brought an expensive bottle of Cabernet, kissing my cheek with practiced charm. "Caroline, you've outdone yourself," he said, surveying the dining room with its false centerpiece and grandmother's china. I noticed how Emma flinched when he put his arm around her. Over appetizers, James dominated the conversation, talking about their recent vacation to Napa and the vineyards they'd toured, where the owner, a personal friend, had given them a private tasting. Emma barely spoke, nodding along and refilling her wine glass more frequently than usual. When my phone buzzed with a text, I absently picked it up, thinking it might be my neighbor who was bringing her famous sweet potato casserole. Instead, I saw it was James's phone. He must have mistakenly left it on the side table when he went to use the restroom. The message preview showed a woman's name, Vanessa, and the words, "Can't wait to see you tonight. She still doesn't suspect anything." My blood ran cold. I looked up to see Emma watching me, something desperate in her eyes. I realized then that she knew, or at least suspected. The weight of my own history with her father crashed down on me. I couldn't let her suffer in silence as I had. When James returned, I tried to stay calm through the main course, watching how he subtly criticized everything from Emma's career choices to the way she'd styled her hair. "Maybe less dessert would be good for you, babe," he said with a smirk when I brought out the pies. Emma stared at her plate, her face flushed with humiliation. I excused myself to make coffee, and Emma followed me into the kitchen. "Mom, I'm sorry we haven't been around much," she said quietly, helping me with the cups. "James has been working a lot." "Emma," I said carefully, "is everything okay between you two?" Her eyes filled with tears, but she quickly blinked them away. "Everything's fine. Perfect, actually. We're thinking about starting a family soon." The thought of my daughter trapped in a marriage with a man like James, raising children in that environment, made me physically ill. When we returned to the dining room, James was on his phone, smiling at something on the screen. "Expecting an important call on Thanksgiving?" I asked, setting down the coffee pot harder than necessary. "Just work," he replied smoothly, pocketing the phone. "From Vanessa?" The words escaped before I could stop them. The room went silent. James's face hardened, but his voice remained eerily calm. "I'm sorry?" "I saw the text, James, by accident. Who's Vanessa?" Emma's face went white. "Mom, stop it. This isn't the time." "She's a colleague," James cut in, his tone dismissive. "Caroline, I think you're misinterpreting something innocent. Maybe at your age, the reading glasses should be upgraded." The condescension in his voice ignited something in me. "Don't gaslight me, James. I know exactly what I saw, and I know exactly what kind of man you are." "Mom," Emma stood up abruptly. "You have no right to interfere in our marriage. This is exactly why we don't visit more often." James put on a wounded expression. "Emma, it's okay. Your mother clearly has some issues she's projecting onto me. We can discuss this privately." "There's nothing to discuss," Emma snapped, gathering her coat. "Mom, I thought you could be happy for me just once, but you're determined to ruin everything good in my life." As they prepared to leave, I made one last desperate attempt. "Emma, please, I've seen this before. I know the signs." "Enough," she shouted. "You're just bitter and lonely, and you can't stand that I have what you couldn't keep. Don't call us. Don't visit. We're done." The door slammed behind them, leaving me alone with 3 uneaten pies and the sickening knowledge that I'd failed to protect my daughter from a man cut from the same cloth as her father. For months after that disastrous Thanksgiving, Emma wouldn't take my calls. Christmas passed with only a generic card signed by both of them. My birthday in February came and went without acknowledgement. I drove by their house once, only to see James's car in the driveway and curtains quickly closing. I left a package of Emma's favorite macarons on the porch with a note saying I loved her, no matter what. Then came my mother's 75th birthday celebration in April, a lavish affair at the country club she'd been planning for months. I almost didn't go, but my sister Janet convinced me that Emma would be there, and it might be my only chance to see her. The ballroom was decorated in Ruth's favorite cream and gold, with photos from her life displayed on easels around the perimeter. I spotted Emma and James immediately. Her in a conservative navy dress I didn't recognize, him working the room like a politician. When Emma saw me, she gave a tight smile but made no move to approach. During dinner, I was seated at a table far from them, with cousins who peppered me with questions about Emma that I couldn't answer. I watched as James charmed my mother, refilling her champagne and laughing at her stories. Emma sat quietly beside him, a picture-perfect wife. But even from across the room, I could see the foundation caked over what looked like a fading bruise near her temple. When Ruth stood to give a speech, she thanked everyone for coming, especially my beautiful granddaughter Emma and her successful husband James, who make me so proud. Then she looked directly at me and added, "It's wonderful to see at least one generation of fisherwomen upholding family values and creating a stable home." The familiar sting of her words was drowned out by the rage building inside me as I watched James possessively grip Emma's shoulder, his fingers digging in visibly when another man at their table spoke to her. I couldn't sit silently anymore. Not again. Not with Emma. When Ruth finished her speech to polite applause, I stood up, grabbed a champagne glass, and tapped it with a spoon. The room quieted, surprised faces turning toward me. "I'd like to make a toast as well," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "To my mother on her 75th birthday. You've always valued family above all else, haven't you, Mom?" Ruth smiled uncertainly, nodding. "That's why I know you'll want to help me protect our family today." I turned to face Emma and James's table. "Emma, honey, I know you think I'm interfering, but there's something I never told you, something I should have told you years ago." James stood up, his face darkening. "Caroline, this isn't the time or place." "Sit down, James," I said sharply. "For once, you're going to listen." I looked directly at Emma. "Your father didn't just leave us, Emma. He beat me regularly for years. The night he disappeared, he put me in the hospital with 3 broken ribs and a concussion." Gasps echoed around the room. Ruth's face contorted with anger. "Caroline, stop this inappropriate display immediately." "No, Mother. I stopped being silent 20 years ago when I left Robert, and I won't be silent now when I see the same signs in my daughter's marriage." I turned back to Emma, whose eyes were wide with shock. "I saw the bruise, Emma. I've seen how he controls you, isolates you, diminishes you. I've been there, and I want you to know you're not alone." James's face was murderous. "This is slander. Emma, we're leaving, now." He grabbed her arm roughly. Emma didn't move. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at me, then at James's grip on her arm, then back at me. "And Mother," I continued, my voice breaking slightly, "when Robert was hurting me, I came to you for help. You told me to be a better wife. You said I needed to try harder to keep my family together. You sent me back to him." The room was completely silent now. Ruth's face had gone pale. "Well, I'm breaking that cycle today. Emma, you have choices. You have support. You have me." James yanked Emma to her feet. "This pathetic woman is making up stories for attention. Tell them, Emma. Tell them how happy we are." Emma looked at her husband, then at me, then around the room at the shocked faces of our family. She pulled her arm free from James's grasp. "My mother isn't lying," she said, quietly, but in the silence, everyone heard. And neither am I, not anymore. She turned to James. It's over. I walked across the room, past my mother's frozen form, and put my arm around Emma's shoulders. Together, we walked out of the ballroom, leaving James sputtering threats and Ruth calling our names behind us. The weeks following Ruth's birthday party were a blur of activity and emotion. Emma moved into my guest room that night, bringing only the overnight bag she'd packed in secret weeks before. By morning, James had called 17 times and sent dozens of threatening texts. We went to the police station together, where Emma filed for an emergency restraining order, and I finally filed a decades-late report about Robert's abuse. The family fractured along predictable lines. Ruth refused to speak to either of us, claiming we had humiliated her on the most important day of her life. My sister Janet, however, showed up at my door the next day with groceries and a fierce determination to help. I always suspected about Robert, she admitted, as we sat at my kitchen table while Emma slept upstairs. I should have done something then. I won't make that mistake again. 3 days after the party, my cousin Melissa called. "Caroline, I need to tell you something," she said hesitantly. "After what you said at the party, well, Robert didn't just disappear that night." She revealed that Ruth and my father had given Robert money to leave town, had helped him establish a new identity in Arizona. They thought they were protecting the family reputation. I'm so sorry. The betrayal cut deep, but it also freed me from the lingering fear that Robert might someday return. A quick internet search confirmed he died 5 years earlier in a car accident, having remarried and fathered 2 more children who would never know about Emma. Meanwhile, James refused to accept the end of his marriage. He showed up at my workplace, sent flowers with threatening notes, and tried to freeze Emma out of their joint accounts. The mask of the charming son-in-law had fully slipped, revealing the monster beneath. With Janet's help, we found Emma a lawyer who specialized in domestic violence cases. The divorce proceedings would be lengthy, but Emma was resolute. What we didn't expect was Vanessa, James's mistress, contacting Emma through social media. "I'm not the only one," she wrote. "There have been others, and he hurt me too." She provided evidence that helped strengthen Emma's case and connected her with 2 other women who had similar experiences with James. As spring turned to summer, Emma began therapy, started looking for her own apartment, and reconnected with college friends James had subtly pushed away. I watched my daughter transform, tentatively at first, then with growing confidence, into someone stronger than the subdued woman who had sat beside James at family gatherings. One evening in June, as we sat on my back porch drinking iced tea, Emma asked about the diamond necklace Ruth had given her. "I've been thinking about returning it to her," she said. "It feels tainted now." I shook my head. That necklace belonged to my grandmother, who was a remarkably strong woman. She escaped pogroms in Russia, came to America alone at 16, and built a life here. Ruth took it because she thought I wasn't worthy of that legacy. I reached over and squeezed Emma's hand. "But the strength it represents belongs to you now. Don't let Ruth's pettiness or James's cruelty take that away." In July, we received unexpected news. Ruth had suffered a minor stroke. Despite everything, Emma insisted we visit her at the hospital. Ruth looked smaller somehow, diminished against the white hospital sheets. When she saw us, tears filled her eyes. "I was wrong," she whispered, her speech slightly slurred. "About everything. Caroline, I should have protected you. And Emma," she reached for Emma's hand. "I'm so sorry." It wasn't a magical reconciliation. Ruth's ingrained beliefs and prejudices wouldn't disappear overnight, and my resentment had deep roots. But it was a beginning, a crack in the wall that had divided our family for decades. The unexpected twist came in August, when Emma discovered she was pregnant. She had suspected before leaving James, but confirmed it weeks later. The news threw her into crisis. "I don't know if I can do this," she confessed, pacing my living room. "A baby connects me to him forever." I understood her fear all too well. "Whatever you decide, I'll support you," I promised. "But Emma, you are nothing like James, just as you are nothing like Robert. This child would be yours, part of you, not them." After days of soul-searching, Emma decided to continue the pregnancy. "I want this baby to know only love," she said firmly. "No manipulation, no control, no fear." By September, Emma had found a small apartment near mine and begun working remotely for a marketing firm. The divorce proceedings continued, with James fighting every step, but the restraining order kept him physically away. The women from James's past had formed an unexpected support network for Emma, united by their shared experiences and determination to stop his pattern of abuse. On a crisp October morning, almost a year after that fateful Thanksgiving, Emma received the final divorce decree. That afternoon, we visited a jewelry store where she had the diamond from Ruth's necklace reset into a new pendant, a phoenix rising, wings spread wide. "For new beginnings," she said, "and for breaking the cycle." It's been 2 years since that night Emma collapsed at my door. Today, she's thriving as a single mother to my beautiful granddaughter Lily, who has her mother's strength and none of her father's darkness. I've watched Emma rebuild herself into someone who refuses to be diminished by anyone. We've created a new kind of family, one built on honesty, support, and the courage to speak difficult truths. Ruth spends every Sunday with us now, slowly making amends through actions rather than grand gestures. She's teaching Lily to bake, passing down recipes instead of judgment. Some wounds may never fully heal, but we've learned that family isn't defined by silence or appearances. It's defined by love and the willingness to stand up for each other, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. If you're watching this and see yourself in my story or Emma's, please know you deserve better. There is life, beautiful, authentic life, after breaking free. If this story touched you, please subscribe to hear more stories of survival and transformation. And remember, your voice matters. Use it.